I'm living life, got myself a wife. What's that smell? I definitely left the oven on.
Episode 8 of The Wheel of Time, the finale, and it was something. I'm not sure something good, but it was definitely something, and quite a lot of bold choices were made, and I don't agree with a lot of them. Now, before we get into the shenanigans, and there's a lot of shenanigans, I'm going to ask you guys to subscribe. It doesn't look like we'll hit 1,000 before the end of the year, as we are 200 away, but the only thing I want for Christmas would be for you to subscribe. Make a poor boy's Christmas. But moving on, we kick off with something that got me super excited at first. I thought it was going to be the Lews Therin Ishamael prologue, but it turns out to just be Lews Therin, which we got half of it, and the Ta Amyrlin speaking in the Old Tongue. I thought the Old Tongue sounded pretty good. I was fine with the look of Lews Therin, but overall, the biggest problem I had with this scene was the whack-ass name drop. That was so clunky to do. A bigger problem I have is she refers to Lews Therin as the Dragon Reborn. Nah. This is the motherfucking OG. He is the first iteration. His followers call him the dragon because of how powerful he was. He is no reborn in this situation. Lews Therin is the one and only at this time. But they are essentially discussing how Lews Therin plans to cage the Dark One and the events leading up to the breaking the world, which left the taint and corruption on the male half of the Source saidin, while the females escaped with no taint as they did not go to the boar to cage the Dark One. Now this is fine overall, but I don't imagine them just cordially parting ways to screw over half of the magic system as it is connected, and usually there would be some repercussions on both sides, and they were lucky to get away with just one side being corrupted. I don't think the Ta Amyrlin, who is the #1 power at this point, would just agree to that. We then pan out to what looks like Tar Valon at first, but then you realize it's a futuristic city with like flying vehicles and everything. And if you don't know, this is the Wheel of Time, so everything loops back around. So the future is the past and the past of the future, and it all connects in a circle. Us right now are part of the pattern and in an age in between Lews Therin and Rand. I do like them showing it off a bit more because in the books it is pretty subtle, and the most you get really is like light bulbs. That's the most obvious one, but besides that, it's kind of hard to catch the certain details unless you're really paying attention. So making it clear, hey, past is future, future is past. I like that. We then cut to Moiraine and Rand walking through the Blight, and Moraine's talking about how dangerous the Blight is, and they see the dead guy. And then we see Perrin and Egwene talking about how dangerous the Blight is and how they don't know where they're going. And then we don't see the Blight be dangerous at all. This is a problem I had. In the books, they do make it a bit extravagant with these like death worms, but overall, the Blight just felt like this creepy forest and no danger at all. Instead of being the literal hell on earth that it is, I had a big problem with that, especially when telling us and not showing us at all. But then we see the 7 towers of Malkier, and they're like walking distance. Hello, you don't have 2 kingdoms, the capitals, let alone like this far away. There's no way it's as close as a stroll through the woods from Fal Dara. But what I do like is the interactions between Rand and Moiraine. The relationship there is really good as he asks, will it be hard to leave Lan behind? Will she miss him? And the connection between those two is excellent. I think they do the character work really well, but they're fumbling some of the bigger story beats, which is the biggest problem I have. The characters themselves, when they are developed really well. I would just like more focus on that and letting the story breathe. Next up is a scene of Lan and Nynaeve talking, and Nynaeve mentions how Moiraine has a tell, and that's how she found them, not actually tracking Lan. And apparently Lan doesn't know this, even though they have been traveling together for well over 20 years. Like, you've covered tracks before. You should know this. This is just the simple writing facts that are convenient, but don't make sense once you look past the surface layer. And then we have a sequence with those two that exemplifies what this first season is. Rushed. The love between those two is not fully developed yet, and Lan pouring his heart out way too early. Literally first book essentially, or first season. No. This takes a long time to develop, and they both need to mature more as people and characters to make this a satisfactory interaction. This was way too early and rushed. As I said, the rest of the season kinda was. We then have Rand taking a nap in the fucking Blight, and he wakes up to see Moiraine stabbed through the mouth by the Dark One. There's a lot of mouth stuff in the show. Makes it very visceral. But like, maybe somebody has a kink. I don't know. I don't mind the blood and gore itself or the creepy mouth stuff. Okay, getting back on track from the mouth tangent, the Dark One appears with the blade in his hand, and Rand is like, oh, fuck. and then the mask disappears as Rand shoots an arrow in his eye. And I think this is way too early to really put a face to the Dark One, and who he is very personal, and I like him, but I think it deserves a spot in the later seasons. Now, the Dark One talks about how unprepared Rand is. Does he even know how to channel? What's the whole deal of why is he here? Lews Therin came with 99 of his boys at his back, and they barely succeeded, with drastic consequences to the world and the pattern. And Rand's like, fuck, I don't know. I'm just vibing. I'll defeat you somehow. And I really do like how Rand is so out of his element, and the Dark One is just dominating this conversation. He feels like he's fully in power, that he is essentially the opposite of the creator. The interactions between these two are awesome and really engaging, and the setup is much better than the final conclusion these scenes end up with. I was kind of disappointed of the buildup. You had such a chance with Eye of the World ending to change something, to do something bold and drastic in your change, and you just ended up going 50-50 on it, changing too much and too little at the same time, but resulting in kind of an incoherent mess. But then Rand stabs himself, and hey, book readers, duty is heavier than mountain. I know you get it. I like that a lot. And he wakes up. Now, the problem with this is a dream world is established later on in the series that death is a very real notion, and Rand would have just killed himself if that had been the occasion and been in that dream world. So they really need to differentiate the nightmare invasion that the Dark Lord does versus being in the dream world, because that can really cause some major harm to yourself. Moiraine then reveals a saw angriel to Rand about her plan of how to defeat the Dark One, and Rand mentions, you thought it was going to be Egwene. You taught her how to channel, and you did all the setup thinking Egwene would be the one. And then there's a mention of the saw angriel being thousands of men's power put into there, and that might make it the most powerful object in the whole entire series, whereas the Fat Man's supposed to be just like a little power booster for Rand, like, you know, like some pre-workout or coffee as he wakes up and kicks somebody's ass. This is making it kind of OP, and I'm not sure how I like it. Something I do like but wish had been reserved for Nynaeve is the talk of a block from the power as Moiraine discusses her time in the tower. This is an This is an alteration of New Spring, the prequel, where Elaida helps her train for her final test, whereas she's helping her get over the block that she has from the power by whipping her and torturing her with weaves. Now, this is a great thing to establish now, but should have been with Nynaeve, as she has the biggest block in the series. This seems like the wrong character allocation, just to explain to Rand that you'll figure out how to channel, it's important. Lord Aglamar then gets ready to defend the gap, and I really do like how they're emphasizing the Borderlanders' duty of they will die to protect the rest of the world from the Blight. But what I don't like is how antagonistic he really was to the White Tower, and I'm not sure if this is supposed to be a conflict with his sister and him trying to like get power and maintain control, but that did not really seem right, even though he comes to terms with his mistake. The Borderlanders are supposed to be very respectful and always put their main goal of defeating evil over anything else. I do love the women getting ready to defend Fall Dara, as they know the wall will fall at Tarwin's Gap, and they will be the next up to try to destroy as much of this Trolloc army as they can. But what I don't like is there's only 10k Trollocs. This is a big city, and the Borderlands, they should have more troops, and they've been defending against this for years. Like, why the hell can't they handle this? I know, budget reasons. That's something that could be solved in the future. But here, they should have switched it up a little bit to where they were handicapped in some way, because this shouldn't really be too much of a problem for them. But overall, the sacrifice for the world shit goes hard as fuck, and I really like the way that they established that in this episode. Egwene, Nynaeve, and Perrin then go to see Min, and they're like, yo, where the fuck's our boy? What the hell did you tell him? What do you see? I don't really like how clear Min's visions are. Yes, I know it's supposed to be like, hey, you see what she's seen, but the vague symbols and the uncertainty of what the visions actually mean was a big part of Min's whole spiel. Rand and Moiraine then arrive at the prison, of which is way too close to Malkier, let alone Fall Dara. As I said, walking distance, so this means it probably isn't the actual prison. And the way they set this whole thing up with the visions from the Amerlin and how it led them to this spot, there's no way this is the actual prison, and it's just a bait. Rand tries to get Moiraine to not go in, as anybody that goes in is supposed to die, as she established earlier. I really like this, as Rand is always trying to save everybody. That's his whole stick for a long time. is I can't let anybody die of my own volition. And I really like these character interactions. I just wish it was way more focused on it. I feel like they got a medium budget and that screwed them over. Where they had a smaller one, they could have focused more on characters. If they had a larger one, they could have done both. And this medium budget kind of fucked them over trying to balance both of them. Rand then sees his last conflict with the Dark One as Lews Therin, who is his past self. And I don't like this appearing so early, as Rand really needs this later on in the story. He still has a whole lot of character development to happen before this stuff starts appearing, and he's only touched the source twice that we know of. There's no way it should be affecting him this way at this point in time. No. Why are you doing this? You're cutting way too much. You're thinking, oh, I need to slim this down to 8 seasons. Well, you're going to cut way too much to get there. But the Dark One shoves Rand into his own little dream world, and Moiraine is shielded or stilled instantly as she tries to fight back. There is a power difference so vast it's not even comprehensible between these two. And then we get probably what is the worst CGI shot in the show of the Trollocs in the gap, and if you were gonna do it in CGI and not practical, at least pack more of them in there, because they're standing at an awkward distance looking like Skyrim characters. Halt, stranger. The Dark One's here to murder your family.
Stop right there, criminal scum!
Like, it was so goofy, and them just repeating the same movements over and over again. They should have just packed more Trollocs in there if they couldn't make them look any better, so then it at least looks crowded, and you can't really pick out the details of how goofy it's looking. That was just an unfortunate allocation of budget. As every Fall Darn is called to arms, Min leaves the city, and the girls plus Perrin are left with a choice. Are we going to go after Rand? Are we going to escape? Or are we going to stand and fight? And the girls choose to join with the other channelers in a last stand effort, showing that they want to defend the helpless. And then Perrin gets the short end of the stick and really does nothing besides run around hallways for the rest of the episode. There is a mat-sized hole in the story, and you can clearly tell later on. Perrin is debating whether to fight or stick to the Way of the Leaf, as they're making this a more prevalent thing later on in the story than what it is in the books. And Loyal, being loyal, gives them the advice, just go ask how you can help. And this would usually lead to them handing him a weapon and being like, go defend the walls. But instead, they give him a pickaxe, and then he does nothing. The only thing Perrin does is uncover the Horn of Valir, which a random soldier just could do. There is nothing that Perrin does in this episode that makes a cent of difference in the whole battle. Off in Dreamworld, Rand is being pretty skeptical. He's like, wait a minute, I was at the Eye of the World. How can we be in this perfect life? And he questions Egwene, who answers the questions perfectly, and Rand's like, holy shit, my dreams have come true. And then the Dark One appears and he's like, yeah, you've been baited. Go fuck yourself, Rand. The Dark One then starts manipulating reality by slitting Egwene's throat and showing him that you can transform the world into whatever you want. You have the power as the Dragon Reborn. This reality could be yours if you just take it. Learn how to channel from me and do as I say. In the real world, Moiraine is threatening Rand by holding a knife to his throat. It's like, hey, he chooses you. I kill this motherfucker. You don't think I was prepared to do this? I will murder Rand's ass if I need to. I do like how they're taking something from the end of the series and the shaping of the perfect world. And I think it would be a great callback if they make it to the end of the series, but I'm not sure this is a faithful enough adaptation that they'll get to that point. So I'm a bit nervous on that, but I do like in concept this creation better than what they have in the books. The ending, not so much. That's quite a bit worse. Something that is wrong is the removal of that mask that the Dark One had. Yeah, the CGI looks shit, but this is something prevalent and a scar from an experience that he had in the past that I won't mention, but book readers, you know, there was consequences to this character's actions in the past. And also, he's way not insane enough. He is too calm and collected. Yes, he's evil, but he needs to be loco. We then cut to the battle at Tarwin's Gap, and the Trollocs are attacking, and in my notes I have Aglamar dead? Well, that's dumb. Yeah, that kind of ruins an awesome plotline at the end of the series. And Aglamar as a character himself, well, he is dead, so yeah, he is ruined as you can possibly get. But I was thinking, what is the necessity of killing him off? The only attachment we have to him so far was the armor scene with his sister, and him talking about fighting to the last man. Overall, it was just a really dumb decision and ruined stuff in the future that's way cooler than what is happening right now. We then get Fane infiltrating the city with a pair of Fades, and like, this is cool. We needed way more Fane. Fane is fucking awesome. We then get more Horn of Valir stuff, and this must be the best kept secret of all time because it would have most definitely been stolen by now, as either Dark Friends or people of the light can use the horn. It doesn't discriminate, it'll fuck anybody up. And as Aglamar and his sister established earlier, there's Dark Friends within Faldara, so there must have been not a zip about this horn, or else it would have been gone in the night before you even knew it. Back in the dream world, the Dark One is teaching Rand how to channel, and the explanation is kind of 50-50 on it. The big problem I had with it is him talking about giving in to the source, whereas the male half is like seizing a massive column of lava as it flows through your veins. There is no giving into it. That's the female half of the source of releasing yourself into the power, while the male is trying to like wrestle a bear while you're getting dunked in water and stabbed at the same time. Like there is no laying into the source for the guys. So this explanation was a bit iffy, but faced with the offer of getting everything Rand could ever want, he chooses to fight back against the Dark One. Because what if Egwene? What if the child sitting there? There is other people to consider, and that's Rand's main thing, is always thinking of others and how he can help them. He's always looking for an opportunity to do right and to represent those others that don't have a voice like he does. This was great, although the conclusion, as I've said before, not so much. But through his love of Egwene and the power of the Sa'angreal, Rand just blasts the Dark One. The CGI was bleh, and there was not a massive power explosion. This is supposed to be the emergence of Rand as he releases uncontrollable power into the air. Now, I said they should adapt it differently as the ending is a bit iffy, but this was just so anticlimactic in the whole, and they chose to do nothing special with it in this moment. I was really disappointed. The acting is great. The writing, not so much. But in the field between Faldara and Tarwin's Gap, the women are in a circle. They are linking. It's very dramatic. They all seem to be having power orgasms. That was a little wild, but you know, it's TV. Everything's dramatized. But Tarwin's Gap has fallen, and as they link with the sister of Aglamar as the main source of the power, as she did go to the tower, power starts accruing in mass. Eventually, it's released in a massive lightning burst, destroying all the Trollocs. And that much power coming from this few Aes Sedai, and yeah, I know it's Nynaeve and Egwene, and they're super powerful, but oh my god, talk about power scaling on another level. But a couple of the women get burnt out one by one by one, and eventually she keeps on drawing power. I do love the showing of the addiction. This power is like crack in this world, and she is burning out Nynaeve and Egwene at the same time. And Nynaeve somehow protects Egwene, maybe allows more power to be drawn through her than Egwene, and she is burning up too. And I love the monologue between those two. It was such an emotional moment, except then it's capsized as she's revived. I would have been pissed if they'd killed her off, but you can't have this nice emotional moment for no fucking reason. Also, Aglamar's sister would have only become accepted, as we saw she did not become full Aes Sedai, so she wouldn't have learned these super destructive weaves and would not have been able to do this. This was just kind of dumb overall. You either A, kill Nynaeve and have your emotional moment, or don't kill Nynaeve and don't have the emotional moment and have this make a bit more sense. You made the wrong choice for the sake of having more drama in this situation. This would have been so much better if the women had been on the wall, channeling unsuccessfully or channeling really badly, and in Nynaeve's case, maybe not at all, as her anger block is there, and they are unable to save somebody, and they have to realize they must go become Aes Sedai so they can save these people that they fail at Tarwin's Gap. Instead, we just have this stupid-ass scene that's immediately revoked as Nynaeve's revived. Or even pull something from future books as you've been doing and have a Forsaken in Faldara with Pat and Fane and have them face her and have them get their shit kicked in despite how powerful they are. Maybe a woman that doesn't show her face, And then they realize that they must go to the White Tower and do as I said and learn to protect people. There was so much better things you could have done with this, and you held them back from going to the Eye of the World to rather just have them do this stupid ass thing and make a scene that eventually leads to no payoff. We then cut to Perrin, who has even more of a useless plotline as Padon Fane fucking shanks Uno and Loyal. I know they're not dead. There's no way they kill him off. That's how you just execute a whole part of your fan base from watching your show. No way that they are dead. But Perrin is sitting there debating whether to do something about it and picks up this dumbass looking axe. And Padan Fain talks about the darkness within them, especially Matt, and how Perrin is scared to feed into that killing, of how he immediately grabs the axe. And I do like this, but there was zero payoff at all. And as I said before, there's a Matt-sized hole in the story. But Padan Fain steals the box, and also the Fates look just kind of like dudes without eyes at this point. I think they did a really good job in the beginning of making them this super scary thing. I am now of the opinion that the Warder and time skip were completely misplaced, and it should have been the boys on the run. Maybe Padan Fain sending dark friends after them and testing them and figuring things out, playing with them, adding character development to not only this villain, but also the boys. This was just kind of a waste of time at this point in the story of where people are trying to get attached to these characters. Goddamn, if you can't have 10 episodes, then cut the stuff that can be used later versus the stuff that is essential now. Back at the prison, Rand talks about how he is scared of going back because he felt the madness, he felt the source, and men go crazy and kill everybody they love. So he tells Moraine, yo, tell them I died here, figure out some way to tell them I'm not going to be around. You know how to lie. And he leaves, and Lan comes and talks to Moraine, and Moraine's like, I can't touch the power. And this is a massive change from the books. I'm not sure if it necessarily affects Moraine's role more than Rand leaving right now, but it does constitute a lot of concern for the character of Moraine and where the hell she's gonna go from here. Her technical role doesn't involve a lot of channeling, but still, this is a major difference from the books. I'm just extremely nervous about what they're gonna do with Moraine, and it just feels like they're trying to add more drama to a situation that already has a lot of tension and character development necessary. But Moraine picks up the piece of Kulendar, which is essentially supposed to be indestructible, and she's like, this shit ain't over. There's no way the Dark One was defeated that fast. And I'm so thankful that they did that, as that is one change to the end of the Eye of the World that they did improve upon, of which it makes it seem like everything's over. And at least here they're like, okay, no way it was that easy. We then get to Nynaeve getting healed by Egwene, where you've written yourself between a rock and a really fucking hard place. As A, you can have Egwene heal Nynaeve and completely ruin the emotional moment you made, or B, you can kill off a character that has hundreds and thousands of pages in the books and would just fuck up the story entirely and get every fan turned against you. So essentially, you wrote a stupid situation. But then we get to what may be the most concerning scene for the future is Rand going to the Aiel Waste? Whoa, way too early. Please make that just be some random spot and not the fucking waste. That would absolutely cut out a whole entire character arc for my boy and be so stupid. Please be somewhere else. Please. The final scene is a pretty mixed bag as a little girl is minding her business on a beach and an armada of ships pulls up, and these look evil. It is the Shan-Chan, and they are coming back to liberate and conquer. I won't say more of that for the people that haven't read the books, but then we see the Damane, which is the channelers of their society, and they have these golden pacifiers. That was stupid. I love the simplicity and the symbolism of the Adam and the caging between the neck and the wrist. It's so good, and now they had to make this more dramatic and more goofy. Come on, why you gotta ruin something that there's nothing to fix about it? So this was 50-50, and then they murder a little girl, of which they're supposed to be here to liberate, and hey, little girl, you want to take the oaths? Oh wait, you've been drowned. Whoopsies. This was making them the villain of the next season, most definitely, but at the same time, kind of fucking with their morals. Overall, this episode was most definitely not my favorite, and they screwed up a lot of things that they could have hit a home run on to make me really like and have confidence in this season. I give it a 4 out of 10. It is a less than average episode because they fumbled the bag in a lot of ways. They made decisions like leaving those other characters out of the Blight, Nynaeve, Egwene, and Perrin, and doing nothing of import with them. I would be curious to see the episode with Matt, but I don't see how Matt changes what the girls do. Overall, this episode was extremely disappointing, but does not totally ruin the series for me as a whole, and I think that there is still promise in the future for an improvement. this is the streaming society now, and everybody is rushing out projects. Now that it is successful and a #1 streaming show, maybe they'll get more time to write the way we want it to be. And also, the Eye of the World is the hardest to adapt. From here on out, it's a bit more straightforward, and if they can collect the pieces and put it back together, I think we could get something really special on our hands. So that's why I'm gonna say please still support the show even though this was a lackluster ending, as we want more seasons, because this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Wheel of Time is not going to get adapted with this much budget behind it again, or at least the potential of this much budget with Bezos money behind it. I wish you guys would just hold on and wait for the improvement, of which will happen if people support it. And if it gets worse and worse, obviously it'll drop off as people drop off. But like and subscribe if you enjoy these videos. I'll be back with a full season review and more Wheel of Time content, along with other things. Watch my other stuff. Maybe you'll like it. I'm coming out with an Attack on Titan video soon. Thanks guys, see ya.